Today we're going to be doing a quick video sharing the 1983 Donruss Hall of Fame Heroes set. Um, I've been talking about this for a while, that I was going to do a video and share this set. And it's 44 cards, which won't take that long to go through. And if you haven't caught when I was showing it in a video a couple of weeks ago, this is an unopened pack of Hall of Fame Heroes from 1983 Donruss. I do not have the puzzle. The puzzle that went with this set is Mickey Mantle. I do not have a copy of that right now, but plan on picking one up down the road to put with the set. At any rate, here we go. Card number 1, Ty Cobb. This is a set that I loved as a child. When this come out, I was about 8 years old. I really loved this set. Just about every legendary player up until the time the set was made is in this set, except for one that I'm kind of surprised is not in the set, and that is Mike King Kelly. But anyway, Ty Cobb is considered by many to be the greatest all-around baseball player that ever lived. Here's what the back of these cards look like. They basically give a brief description of the player on the back, and things he accomplished during his career. And I had picked up a second set of these, and this set you're seeing here is going to be the best centered versions of each card I currently have. The second card, number 2, is Walter Big Train Johnson. And as far as nicknames go, Ty Cobb is known as the Georgia Peach because he was from Georgia. But Walter Johnson held the all-time strikeouts for a career for years. I believe he still owns the career shutout record, which will never be broken because pitchers today can't even throw 4 innings without getting tired. But he had over 100 shutouts in his career, I do believe. Card number 3 is Christy Mathewson, who won way over 300 games. He was famous for his well-known fadeaway pitch, which was the first of its kind. A lot more known as a modern breaking ball, so to speak, more so like a lot of modern breaking pitches. But back in his day, Mathewson pitched at a time when most pitchers that were successful were throwing illegal pitches, spitballs, which weren't illegal at the time, but spitballs and, doctoring a lot of pitchers were doctoring the baseball. Mathewson was one of the few that, back in his day, that had a good fastball to go with a dominant breaking pitch. All right, now here is probably one of the most legendary players from the Negro Leagues, Josh Gibson, who is legendary. I don't care what type of league it was part of. This guy should have been part of the Baseball Hall of Fame many, 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 many years ago. Josh Gibson was legendary. And, stat keeping was erratic early in his career, but at the same time, it's there. And there's no doubt this guy was the greatest hitter of all his peers throughout his career. Here is Honus Wagner, another all-time great from the early 1900s. Here is Jackie Robinson, well-known. And Robinson, a great player in his own right. There was a lot of conflict when Robinson signed with the Dodgers to be the first black player in the major leagues, which technically he is not. There was actually that would be, and I forget the guy's name now, but he played in the 1800s. But anyway, when Robinson signed, there was a lot of people that felt like that Josh Gibson should have been the one. Others felt Satchel Paige, who had carried the Negro Leagues on his back most of his career. Here is the Mick, card number 7. And everybody is familiar with Mickey. Luke Appling. Nice photo there with a fan. All of these are like portrait cards. I love that about them. Somebody had really put a lot of work into, these. Here is Teddy Ballgame, Teddy Williams. Ted Williams there. And Williams is one of those guys, just, you think about it like this, as great as his numbers was for his career, this is a guy that missed time during war. Missed several seasons that would have been prime seasons for him, kind of like Bob Feller. So One can only imagine how good his stats would have been if he'd have played those years in the majors. And right here is Johnny Mize. Yep, Johnny Mize. All right. One of my favorites, Satchel Paige, one of my favorite players of all time. Right up there with Bob Feller is somebody that I love. I wish there was more cards of Satchel Paige out there to collect. And is this Lou Boudreau? Yeah, Lou Boudreau, former Cleveland great. I consider Satchel to be a Cleveland great, even though he was, played for the St. Louis Browns as well at the end of his career, near tail end of his career. Jimmy Fox. It's a nice portrait here. Here's Duke Snyder, Brooklyn Dodger star. Monty Urban, who is kind of a forgotten star today. Urban was a great player. Nobody really remembers anymore. And that's one thing I love about these all-time great sets. They remind you of guys that you may have forgotten. Hank Greenberg is a guy that played, his career kind of overlapped, I believe, with Lou Gehrig's, but he didn't get the fanfare from the media as Lou Gehrig did, but he was a tremendous horse of a hitter, great player. Here's Roberto Clemente, great ball player. Great ball player. Al Kaline, Detroit Tigers legend. Frank Robinson, this is another guy that amazes me. This guy could do it all. He was one of the best players of his generation, and today he is forgot about. He was a good manager as well. When after his playing career was over, he was a very good manager. He's the answer to a trivia question. Who was the first black major league manager? Frank Robinson, right here in Cleveland. But nobody remembers him today. And card collectors disrespect his cards in a way, you could say, because you look at the values of other guys that are in the Hall of Fame that had the kind of career that this guy had with the same similar numbers, and you see their cards selling for way more in many cases than you will Frank Robinson, which I think is, kind of disrespectful to how good he was. Joe Cronin. I could see somebody saying, well, if it was cards of somebody like this that played in the early 1900s, they don't really, Joe Cronin is a name that I've read about, but you don't hear broadcasters and people mention that name as that often. But Frank Robinson is a name. It's not like he played that long ago. He retired in the, mid 70s, and he was a great player. This right here is Burley Grimes. Now, that's a legendary name in itself. Burley Grimes, you got to love that name. Just got to. Right here is the Wayner brothers of Pittsburgh. Lloyd and Lloyd was known as Little Poison, and Paul. Lloyd and Paul. And moving on, Grover Cleveland Alexander, there with his P on his hat for the Phillies. He's also, a lot of stories are told about him legendarily coming in as a relief pitcher, pitching a game hungover from being drunk the night before because he didn't think he would pitch in Game 7 of the World Series because he had just started the day before. And, been the starting pitcher. And they used him out of the bullpen. He was hungover, half drunk still. And sit down, I think it was Tony Lazzari. But anyway, great pitcher. This guy before World War One was one, or I'm thinking World War One. It might have been World War Two, but it really, the war affected his career. He went off. It was just like Ted Williams, Bob Feller. He went off in the prime of his career. Wartime. He was wounded. They say that he lost hearing. Only had partial hearing in one ear after he came back because of bombs going off and stuff like that. And he never was the same. He was still good, very good, but never the same great pitcher that he had been. Yogi Berra here with, Yankee legend. Here's another great guy that never got to play in the major leagues like Josh Gibson, but one can only imagine how good he would have been. This guy to me would have probably been Lou Brockish, type, maybe even better average hitter than Lou Brock, but Cool Papa Bell. His name was James Bell, but everybody knows him as Cool Papa Bell. See what I mean? There's some very nice cards. Great players in this set. Bill Dickey. He is a guy that was a Yankee legend, and nobody really remembers him anymore. But he had one of the greatest careers for a catcher that any catcher ever has had. Cy Young, everybody's heard of him just because of the award named after him, but all-time victory leader, Charlie Gehringer. Charlie Gehringer with Detroit there. And you know what? I believe I got him and Hank. I might have Hank Greenberg is the one I was thinking about before with the Tigers. That's a career. He was overshadowed by Lou Gehrig. There's my guy, Dizzy Dean. I love Dizzy Dean. Something about a lot of pictures that I love collecting. Anything I can find of them. Bob Feller, Satchel Paige, Dizzy Dean. Which I pitched when I was in high school. So I was always like more um, gravitated more to collecting all-time great pitchers. Bob Lemon, another all-time legendary pitcher here in Cleveland. Red Ruffin there with the Yankees, another guy that nobody really thinks about anymore or remembers, but great ball player. Stan the Man Musial, St. Louis Cardinals legend. Right here's another guy that I love. I love the story. This guy was a career minor leaguer. Nobody would give him a chance because he threw a funny pitch. This guy would have been the type of player that Billy Beane, when he took over Oakland back in the late '90s as general manager, Billy Beane would have traded for this guy, put him right in the major leagues right off the bat. Uh, because it wasn't that he didn't have success. It was because he had success in the minors, but he threw a funny pitch. Nobody wanted nothing to do with him. Carl Hubble threw the screwball. He's credited with being like the first major screwball pitcher, and that is a pitch to this day that all major league teams on it, they don't want nobody throwing because of the pressure it puts on the arm. But somebody that masters that pitch can be devastating. Carl Hubble didn't make the majors till he was in his late 20s, and he still become a Hall of Famer off that pitch. So, but he had mastered it. Beautiful card here of Henry Aaron. In my opinion, still the all-time home run king, legit home run king anyway. And yeah, I watched Barry. I seen Barry Bonds from the time he was a rookie with Pittsburgh all the way to the end with San Francisco. And there's never been a doubt in my mind that he was a steroid user. You don't go from weighing 185 pounds and being the most athletically gifted outfielder in all of baseball and show up the next year weighing 235 pounds of and look like a football linebacker. And suddenly you're so unathletic that you're almost, a burden in left field. I mean, he went from being like the best left fielder in baseball to not even being able to play the outfield hardly, even though he was on a National League team and they kind of had to prop him up in the outfield somewhere. John McGraw, former everybody that's ever read about him, you'll always read stories about how great a manager he was. Um, and a lot of that had to do with the players he managed. The Giants had tremendous talent led by Christy Mathewson back in the early 1900s. But one thing that most people don't know, this guy was an early baseball player in the early days of professional baseball. He was a star in the 1800s, or a player in the 1800s. Here's my guy, Bob Feller. This one is a little off center. I'm going to have to pick up a better version of this card. I love to have for my sets as well as centered cards as I can get, so that will be replaced in time. And here is the Yankee skip of all time. One of them. They've had a lot of famous managers, but Casey Stengel always was a popular manager with the fans. And here's Ralph Kiner. These are beautiful cards. Roy Campanella, Dodger great, Brooklyn Dodger great there. This is a guy that's career got cut short as well. No telling how good his numbers would have been if he hadn't, ended up in a wheelchair. Um, Also, these cards are so beautiful. This is a set that you're interested in, that you would like, I'll tell you. The good news is, even though that this set is going all the way back to 1983, and it's got all these, beautiful Hall of Famers, in the set, you can get this set very reasonable. Some guys are kind of crazy out there, kind of on the high end, $15. But you can get, if you're patient, you can find on eBay a good quality set for around $10. But between $10 to $15, you can pick up a good set of these, if you're interested in picking one up. So it's not like it's an expensive set, but if you love the history of baseball, like I said, every one of these cards, this is Mel Ott, by the way, another legendary New York Giants player. But they got, information about the players on the back. It's kind of like, People say, "Oh, nostalgia." No, it's history. It's history. Okay, it's got nothing to do with nostalgia. It's history. It's about the game that if you really love baseball and you're not just in this to flip cards, then this is a set that a lot of people, if you love the history of the game, some of the greatest players that ever lived is in this set. Robin Roberts, the Philadelphia Phillies, great pitcher. Early win here, another former Indians great pitcher. And the last two cards, there is the other Mickey Mantle. Now this is one the puzzle that I do not have that was puzzle pieces was in the packs, card packs of these. It's Mickey Mantle. The puzzle looks just like this when you have all the pieces put together. And but that's the other Mantle card. And then the checklist is the last card. So anyway, that's the 44 card set. I wanted to share it in a video with you. I would, if I had got anything in today, share you my mail while I'm doing this video, but I had no mail come in today, just junk mail. So, but that could be good. No mail means no bills. So, but anyway, getting a late start on this video. Roseanne had a dentist appointment I had to take her to today. She's doing pretty good though. Her eye appointment went well. About a week and a half ago went great. We were really worried about that she was going to need surgery. So anyway, that's some good news. But thank you all for watching. I hope you like this video. If you like this set, like I said, you can pick them up pretty cheap, and it is a nice set. And it's actually a great little 44 card set that if you've got a kid that likes baseball and you want to teach them, help them learn more about some of the most legendary players that ever played, that's a cool set. And like I said, the cards all have cool information about each player on the back. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Be back again soon with more videos.